I was chatting to Pete Wilkins during the week. We run a little podcast with the URC, and he was chatting about some of the stuff that was really pleasing during the game, and some of that was coming from behind, and looking dead and buried, and they get themselves back in front in the game. There were so many other things that he probably wasn't happy with, rather than just the last 2 minutes of the game. And yeah, they've dissected it. Obviously, the line out call, everybody's just saying, "Oh, why didn't they just throw the two? This easy ball, just win it there." It was a little crooked looking back on it, and then a good side like Leinster will take advantage. But you can't just get hung up on a defeat to one of the best sides in Europe. And you played okay, and that's the positive. They played okay. And I also asked Pete the question, do you know your best starting 15 players? And he was like, you know what? I think over the last sort of few weeks, we were sort of getting there. And then after the weekend against Leinster, I have a pretty good idea. So, pretty good idea. And you look at the team sheet versus Bordeaux this weekend, it's very strong, very, very strong. Jack Carty, the only one that's missing, JJ Hanrahan. I'm not actually sure what's going on with Jack Carty, if he's dropped or he's injured or rotation or whatever. But JJ's been going really well. Cahill Ford has been unbelievable for them so far this season. He's wearing the 13 jersey. Mac Hansen's at full back. He'll be a counter-attacking threat. But, Bordeaux are a team full of talent. They're going really, really well in the top 14. And, Damien Pinot, I think it's 13 tries or something, or 14 tries already this season. So he'll be a massive threat for Bordeaux. But it just feels like I've been there before, Donny. I went to watch Connacht versus Toulouse, and it was like, I maybe said this before with you and the Ladbrokes guys. It was like 2,500 kgs of French muscle against like 1,500 kgs of raw Italian, or sorry, raw Irish meat that wanted to go head to head. And they got absolutely dominated. Like Connacht got dominated in the physicality, but they found a way to win. And it was just the sports ground. The atmosphere was class. I was sad having a cold beer in the middle of it all, enjoying the atmosphere. And Connacht just dug deep and were able to get a big victory. And that's what I think is going to happen this weekend. That Connacht tonight are going to put in a good effort after the disappointment of last week and go on and beat Bordeaux, who are also flying high. If you look back on the games that Ulster played in Bath, they don't have a bad record. And myself being involved in it in a number of those games. And yeah, it's a tight ground, quite a small pitch. Ulster used to now playing on this 3G, 4G, whatever you want to call it. Lovely surface, a nice even surface. Well, the wreck is, anything but. It can be a bit of a mud bath, especially at this time of the year. So it'll be interesting to see how that pitch holds up. The saving grace for Bath is that they've got a really dominant scrum. So they've got Obana, Will Stewart, tight head, loose head, and they're giving most teams a bit of a hard time. So the way Ulster has been performing, especially in the scrum, Glasgow and last week against Edinburgh, two teams that you would say that Ulster would have the upper hand on, and they certainly didn't. That could be a huge area of concern. Also, their maul defence hasn't been good. Edinburgh ran through them a couple of times. But on the flip side of that, their own maul has been very potent and a huge weapon once again, like it was last season. So, yeah, good enough history down at the Rec against Bath as Ulster, but it just feels they're in a little dip of form. They haven't hit their straps. Confidence is maybe a little bit low, and as you rightly said, Donny, Bath are flying high, second in the Gallagher Premiership. So you would expect Bath to win this one. Win it comfortably, maybe 10 to 15 points, in my opinion. I don't think it's going to be an absolute wipeout, and Ulster will dig deep at times. Like sometimes it can be very difficult to fix something within a week, especially a maul defence that was leaking tries against Glasgow, and other teams that have went to Thomond or down to Cork. Like it has been an area of vulnerability for Munster, and you would never associate that with Munster rugby, and especially in the Champions Cup. So I expect this to be sorted out, and it can just be a couple of small fixes with personnel. If two people are doing the opposites, then they're obviously working against each other when it comes to maul time. So Graham Roundtree, a specialist forward that he is, will hopefully have that maul defense sorted. They're brilliant with ball in hand. Jack Crowley, Antoine Frisch, Shane Daly, Calvin Nash had a good game again last week. So I expect them to be on hot form and to get the right result. And as always, give Thomond Park the start to the Champions Cup that they always expect. And the atmosphere to be buzzing down there. It's hopefully be a good evening. I think they'll still be absolutely furious, raging about what happened last year in the final. And that does leave a little bit of scar tissue, I believe. It also leaves for the Leinster players an even bigger want to go out and do a job, and also away from home in their own backyard. And they will have targeted this game for sure. There's been, I know we've chatted about it, Donny, but there's been huge rotation amongst the Irish provinces with players. But expect a full bore Leinster side to go down to La Rochelle and try and get the result. And I actually fancy key position. You just look at Johnny Sexton and what he's brought that Leinster side over the last 15 years since pulling on that jersey. And there has to be somebody else that steps up. There has to be somebody else that steps up and drives the standards, drives the plays. Is the Brady, the quarterback, calling all the moves, and making sure they get their team going forward, playing in the right areas of the pitch, controlling territory, speaking with the referee in the right tone, managing training during the week, being that leader on and off the pitch. And if it is Harry Byrne, then it's Harry Byrne, and that's what they got to roll with this week. Kieran Frawley's been playing fullback, had to step in against Munster at out half, did very, very well. So I know there's a bit of a media hype train, Donny, isn't there, about Kieran Frawley, especially after that Munster game, and then he just goes and backs it up with a lovely last minute try against Connacht to seal the victory there. So maybe we will see Frawley, and I'm eagerly waiting for this team sheet to be announced. But I'm going to go for a Leinster win down in La Rochelle.